Annyeonghaseyo, welcome to the Land of Korean Cinema. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I'm not a fan of romantic movies or series. But I also like to go into movies and dramas totally blind, so I like to know as little as possible. So all I knew about today's show that it was partially written by Kim Eun-suk, who had also written Goblin and Mr. Sunshine, and that it was a major hit. So imagine my surprise when I realized it was a romantic drama. Let's talk about Descendants of the Sun, or Taeyang-ge-hue. The main cast consists of Song Joong-ki, Jin Goo, Song Hye-kyo, and Kim Ji-won. But the side characters are also played by awesome actors. Here's Kim Byung-chul, Jae-yoon, David McInnis from Mr. Sunshine, and many more. The story centers around a special forces soldier played by Song Joong-ki and a doctor played by Song Hye-kyo. They meet at a hospital accidentally and take a liking to each other. Through ways which I'm not gonna get into right now, they both end up in a fictional country called Uruk, where they are more needed than they might think. But can they be together? Or their jobs might separate them? If I knew this was a romantic drama, I never would have started watching this. What a stupid decision that would have been. Just like in the case of It's Okay to Not Be Okay. If all romantic shows are like this, then give me all the romantic shows in the world. The very first thing that caught my attention was the humor, surprisingly. It's there right from the very first episode, and it's one of the strongest aspects of this show. There are not only moments but long periods of time which are really funny. This show put a huge smile on my face for the most part, made me feel good about life, and that's something very valuable. But the humor only works because the characters in the show are not only likable but lovable. And a lot of times the humor comes from them being in pretty awkward situations, and you really feel for them. If you need a little sunshine in your life, I can highly recommend Descendants of the Sun. And not only that, but this show puts romance in a pretty different perspective also. These characters are all very sensible, mature people. And that's not to say they can be playful or slightly childish sometimes, but when it comes to important things in life, they make very sensible decisions. That's especially true for Song Hye-kyo's character. She's constantly being conflicted about dating Song Joong-ki, and for very good reason. Imagine dating a person who can be called to war at any time and he might not come back, or comes back in a coffin. Would you risk that? And not only that, but since he's in the special forces, he has to keep a lot of secrets. He can't talk about his missions, so in a way, honesty in this relationship is out of the question. Would you date someone like that? And if that wasn't enough, Jin Goo's and Kim Ji-won's characters are also in love. But they also can be together, for different reasons, although they're both in the military. So we got a lot of different perspectives on how difficult a relationship can be if you're not driven purely by desire. For me, this is way more interesting than just, "Oh, I love you, let's kiss." This show is much more about longing, about unfulfilled desires and feelings. You could say it's about the darker side of love, but things are not that bleak, thankfully. It's just that relationships are hard, they take a lot of sacrifice, and even then they might not work out, for reasons which are beyond our control. I loved it so much. I also really liked a lot of the side characters here. Much of the show is taking place in Uruk, where the soldiers are deployed and also a team of doctors are sent there. And at first it seems like the side characters are going to play a minor role, but their significance grows with each and every episode. And then something happens and suddenly everyone becomes important and very useful. And it allows for some really interesting character arcs. My favorite of them was played by an actor called Onyu. He was the biggest surprise of this show for me. His character arc is just fantastic. He gets to question his vocation as a doctor for very good reasons. His conflict is very genuine and real, and his performance was fantastic. The writing in the show is top-notch for the most part. The fact that not only the main characters are able to shine, but basically almost everybody is just mind-blowing. And the way they were able to slowly make everyone seem significant is not a small feat either. This is the kind of show where you will really miss these characters after you finish watching it. And the storytelling is really good. It all flows really well, nothing is jarring, and honestly, I don't think I was bored for a minute. And as the people arrive in Uruk, suddenly the cinematography becomes really good too. I love the color grading, I love a lot of the establishing shots, there is some really tasteful cinematography here. I wouldn't say it's exceptional framing wise, but for the most part, this show is great to look at. But really, the heart and soul of Descendants of the Sun is the camaraderie between the main characters. Song Joong-ki and Jin Goo are basically best friends, and I loved every moment between them. And they speak formally to each other all the time because they're both high-ranking soldiers in the military. But you can tell they really respect each other. Things like that, you know? And also, most of the characters in the show are just trying to do something good. It was so refreshing to see how soldiers were portrayed in the show. We get to see them much more as humans rather than soldiers. And they follow orders, of course. But most of the time their job here is to do something good, to help others. And their help is needed. If there are people like that in real life, then there's still at least a little hope for humanity. It was so good. So basically the show is almost perfect. Almost. David McInnis plays the main villain here, and this is where the show is not as strong as it should be. Everything he does, everything he says is cliché after cliché. And he has quite a bit of screen time, and his character really drags the show down. And it's not the actor's fault. I think he's very much proved himself with Mr. Sunshine. It's the writer's fault, and in a very turn show like this, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Also, there was a pretty interesting relationship between Jin Goo and the young guy played by Kim Min-suk. Jin Goo basically saves him, and then he joins the military, and basically there's this older brother, younger brother relationship between them. I wanted to see a lot more of that. There's not nearly enough interaction between them. And of course, since this is a romantic drama, there are some cheesy moments. Those were my least favorite. Thankfully they kept it to a minimum, and most kisses are earned, trust me. But still, sometimes it's there. Apart from that, I absolutely loved this show. Whether you like romantic dramas or not, I highly recommend it. If the characters appeal to you, you're gonna have a fantastic time with this one. I'm gonna give Descendants of the Sun 93%. A little sunshine in a world of darkness. Just what I needed. 여러분, 오늘 여기까지만 해요. 영상 봐주셔서 감사합니다. 이 영상 좋아하시면 구독과 좋아요 잘 부탁드립니다. See you very soon. 다음 시간에 만나요 여러분. 안녕히 계세요. Bye!